about an investigation regarding a certain handgun that authorities here in the state of North Carolina are using. We want to bring in our Nate Morabito, who's been digging into this and also getting an update for us. And so, Nate, it sounds like there could be more questions being asked regarding this firearm, and lawmakers kind of looking into, you know, what sort of information they need to have about this handgun.
Right. Yeah, this is a big debate among gun enthusiasts. Number one, it's about the Sig Sauer P320. This is a popular police weapon. And here in North Carolina, the North Carolina State Highway Patrol uses this gun as its duty weapon. Mm-hmm. Now, back in May, we started reporting on this because our sister station up in Seattle, King TV, learned that the State Training Academy in the state of Washington banned the use of this gun after too many reported spontaneous discharges, let's call them, unintentional firing of this gun when people said it was either in their holster or their hand wasn't touching the trigger. So that's concerning. People getting injured by a gun that's supposedly in their holster without them pulling the trigger. So some police departments stopped using it as well. Eventually, the Oregon Training Academy stopped using it. At the time of our reporting, we knew of more than 100 lawsuits filed against Sig Sauer, including with some officers from here in North Carolina, not with the Highway Patrol, but who said the same thing essentially happened to them. So we asked the State Highway Patrol, are you going to change anything? Are you concerned about this? And at the time, the agency said, we've used this gun for 8 years, over 2 different generations of the gun. There's been no spontaneous discharges. The fear has always been, if this gun goes off once, it could kill someone. Especially with police, you have officers, their own safety and the safety of the public we're talking about. So fast forward, unfortunately, to July 20th, and at an Air Force base in Wyoming, a 21-year-old airman died after the military version of this gun, the M18, discharged. So immediately, the Air Force's branch that handles like the nuclear weapons in this country said, we're going to pause the use of this gun. I believe it's Air Force Strike Command. I may not be saying that right, but just know that they handle our nuclear weapons, protecting them. They said, we're going to temporarily stop using this gun, and we're going to inspect all M18s. Remember, the civilian version of the M18 is the P320. That's the gun, the P320, that law enforcement use. Also, a new lawsuit is filed by a person in Houston, a law enforcement officer who says, and they all say this usually, I know how to handle guns, I'm trained. Some of them are veterans, right, as well. I didn't do this. This wasn't me that caused the gun to go off. So he files a lawsuit. It's very similar to the one that we referenced, I believe it was the High Point Police Department back in May, the one that we were talking about. Well, nonetheless, our friends down in Tampa, our station, our content partner there, learned that Tampa Police, you spent some time in Tampa, mm-hmm. Tampa Police, they were going to start reevaluating the use of their P320s because of this. And then the San Antonio Police Department says, we're going to temporarily stop using this gun because we're aware of a possible defect, and we're going to, out of abundance of caution, we're not going to use it anymore. So all of this led me to say, we need to ask the State Highway Patrol again, are you still comfortable using this gun? And initially I talked to them. They said there's been no discussions of moving away from this weapon. And I followed back up, nothing new to report. So Friday we interviewed Senator Mujtaba Mohammed. He represents Mecklenburg County with the NC Senate. And we were talking to him about a variety of subjects, but I wanted to get his thoughts on this because he is a member of public safety committees in Raleigh. And here's what he told us.
Law enforcement is a very tough job. I mean, these are men and women who literally put their lives on the line every single day. They kiss their families goodbye. The last thing we need is our law enforcement officer or our state highway patrolman to be shot by their own firearm because it's spontaneously discharged. I appreciate you bringing the concern to me. I'm happy to reach out to the North Carolina Highway Patrol and the Department of Public Safety and figure out what's going on.
I first shared our reporting with him back in May, by the way, as well, and then followed up with these new developments. He's still waiting to hear back from the State Highway Patrol. I told the State Highway Patrol, let me know by noon today if you all are going to be changing anything. That was my deadline because we have a story airing tonight at 5 o'clock. So all this to say, there is growing concern about this gun. But at the same time, and Jeb, I don't know if you could look this up for me, but if you look up Sig Sauer P320 safety information, the company has basically on its website has all these different subheads of topics where it is trying to restore people's faith in this gun. And it talks about the Wyoming situation and how they're participating and they have trust that the Air Force will look into it. It talks about this, how this gun cannot, under any circumstances, fire without someone pulling the trigger. And they said it's been tested. So you have these two competing sides here, and there's public safety at hand in the middle of it. And this is what it really makes it different. And if you want to scroll down, you can see all these different kind of points there where Sig Sauer is trying to answer any questions that people have. But we've reached out to Sig Sauer for both stories we've done on this. We've not heard back from them. You'll see under this one right here, Jeb, scroll down just a tiny bit more for me. The P320, there you go, cannot under any circumstances discharge without the trigger first being moved to the rear. This has been verified through exhaustive testing by Sig Sauer engineers, the U.S. military, several major federal and state law enforcement agencies, and independent laboratories. In the past, P320's maker, Sig Sauer, has also indicated the majority of these problems are based on user error, whether it was some issue with a holster and maybe a key got into the holster, someone was maybe carrying too much stuff and was rubbing up against it. There's so many lawsuits, though, that there's legal battles brewing. And I just go back to the fact that this person died, a 21-year-old service member. Before that, a person in the Northeast died, and his widow sued Sig Sauer. These lawsuits are pending still. So you have this growing body of evidence, and I think the question here is the North Carolina State Highway Patrol confident and comfortable enough to continue using this gun? And if they're not going to change it, the answer is clearly yes. But you have all these warning signs, God forbid this happens to any of our officers in the Carolinas or really across the country. We don't want to see anybody die. And I think it's just such an interesting debate because, again, life and death hang in the balance here.
Yeah. So for your piece tonight, what will we learn? You know, who are we going to hear from? Clearly, there's still some questions out there, but, you know, what are we presenting to viewers just so they can kind of get a good idea of?
Yep, you're going to hear from the most recent person-to-file lawsuit from Houston, a law enforcement officer there. This is interesting. There's a lawmaker in Florida who's saying, you're going to hear from him, you should not be using this gun. No law enforcement in that state should be using this gun until you can prove more often than not that this gun is not going to go off without someone pulling the trigger. You're going to hear more from Senator Mohammed, and you're going to hear kind of some of the additional details of what the Air Force is doing in this situation too. A lot of times when I report, I look at solutions. What are other people doing to help our situation here? In this case, we know there are problems in other places, and we're looking within North Carolina to see, should any of this raise an alarm here in our state to maybe take a closer look at this gun? And you heard Senator Mohammed say this. Law enforcement is already a difficult job as it is. We do not want to make it more dangerous for people. The question now is, how dangerous, if at all, is it for these trained officers to be carrying this gun in a holster?
Yeah. I mean, did any of these lawmakers address the fact that Sig Sauer itself said that there were so many tests that it had done, and it said independent tests and such?
Not that I'm aware of. I'll tell you, in Washington State, which really kind of led the charge on banning this gun in a training academy, they had a task force that had a Sig Sauer representative on a Zoom meeting who basically gave plenty of other explanations of why this gun might go off, all of them other than it going off without someone pulling the trigger. Sig says that cannot happen. All of these other people are saying it is a problem. And in this law firm that we talked to back in May, they were in Philadelphia, but we interviewed the attorney, and this firm is now representing the airman's family who died. And all they want to see happen is that this gun go off the shelves and get fixed if it can be fixed. They believe it can be fixed. And that's it. I mean, there's all these lawsuits, yes. But at the end of the day, he told us, Robert Zimmerman, this attorney, we just want to protect other people. And that, through a statement of the family of the airman, they said the same thing. We just don't want this to happen to anybody else.
Yeah. When can folks see your piece tonight?
We're going to be on TV with it at 5 o'clock tonight. It's already online, though, if you want to take a look, WCNC.com. You can pull that up. It's fairly detailed. You can see our initial reporting, too. We're trying to take a really big look at this across the country so that we can be best informed here. And I think that's what's always so important when we're talking about issues that affect our state, our counties, our cities. We need to be educated so that we can come up with the best decisions of what we feel is right and wrong. And when I say we, I mean the taxpayers, the voters. If you have an opinion on this matter, whether you think it's safe, you don't think it's safe based on the other reporting, what's happening in other parts of the country, you should let your lawmakers know, one way or the other. Let them know how you feel on this, because these contracts to get guns, they're usually several years, and they cost us money. And we don't want to be putting money into something that could potentially hurt or harm someone down the road. The question is that the case here? And depends who you talk to, depends the response you're going to get.
Yeah, really interesting. All right, Nate, anything else you want to leave us with before we wrap things up?
No, I think it's just so critical. These lawmakers, they work for you, right? And we had a lot of controversy last week about concealed carry, talking about guns, and if people need permits anymore in North Carolina, and who's voting for and trying to overturn and I think successfully overturning the governor's veto when it comes to that. If you have an opinion on anything and you're not sharing it with your lawmakers or your elected leaders, they're not hearing you.
Yeah.
They're not scrolling through social media. They're not tuning in to the news to hear what their constituents are saying. You have a direct line to them. I just think it's so important for us all to reach out to our lawmakers, good or bad, and just share your feelings. That's what they're there for. Not just when it's a problem.
Right.
The rest of the time, speak up too. We're all busy. It's hard to do. But your voice does go a long way. And we can help amplify it when necessary, and we have in the past. These people are accessible. And if they don't answer you, reach out to me, because I'll make sure they answer you.
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely seen cases where, whether it's on a local level or state level, even, federal level, where people making a lot of noise and speaking, their minds to policymakers made a difference. And,
Sure.
And in cases, as you referenced, kind of a last resort, as folks have kind of exhausted all the avenues, maybe coming to you, because we've seen you get answers as well. All right. Nate, thank you.
Yep, happy to do it. Happy to be here.
All right, we'll see you
at 5.
next time.
Yep.
Folks, we